Welcome once again to our continuing YouTube video series on employment law. My name is Christopher Neufeld of Neufeld Legal, and in this particular YouTube video, we are focusing on hotel employees. In particular, hotel employees who've been long-serving employees at these large hotel conglomerates. And dealing with the challenges that they find themselves in. First, with the COVID-19 pandemic leading to massive temporary layoffs, which have resulted in a lot of hotel employees, especially even the long-serving ones, having to take time off and not get paid, potentially getting some government assistance, and meanwhile, finding themselves then at the end of these layoffs, hoping beyond hope to return to their jobs that they've been working so hard and so diligently at, to instead find themselves receiving a termination notice. And the prospects then of restarting their employment at the excellent wages that they were earning previously because they'd worked so hard for, being very scant, because across the country, in all the large metropolitans, those hotel jobs do not exist anymore. And when they do come back, the unfortunate tale is going to be that they probably are not going to be paying as much. They're not going to be taking back, again, these more senior hotel employees, but instead looking to the more junior people who they pay a fraction of the cost to, and to whom they are not effectively legally indebted to with respect to termination and severance pay. And that leads to the core aspect of what this discussion is about. And that is that these employees who have now been terminated are potentially not getting the full level of termination pay, severance pay that they might otherwise be entitled to. It's a common trend across industries, but even more so, I believe, is to be the case in the hotel sector, because the hotel sector is one of those areas where there is always that concern and that stigma of, if you demand too much, you're going to get impacted by it. But these are different times, and different considerations need to be made, because there is a legitimate concern that you should have. There is a legitimate worry that's out there that the large mega hotel corporations are effectively looking to take advantage of their employees, their former employees in particular, and they're looking to cost cut at any particular way possible, because they're not generating revenue themselves, because their hotels are being underserved. But does that mean that they should then take it out on their long-serving hotel employees who otherwise should have got paid substantially more on the way out when they were finally terminated? That is absolutely not the case. That is not what should be happening. But what should you be doing as a long-serving hotel employee who now finds themselves with a pink slip, dismissed from a job that you worked so hard for? You put in extra time. You put in extra effort. You dealt with abuse. You dealt with challenges that are coming from you, and you continue to smile and persevere through that time. And now, because of the COVID-19 pandemic and the resulting economic impact, you find yourself out of a job, and the possibilities of getting a comparable hotel job appear less likely than ever before. Irrespective of how hard you worked, the fact of the matter is there's so much competition, and the pricing that is going to go on is not going to be there. So what do you need to do? what you need to do is you need to take the time before you commit to any buyout package, severance package, termination package, whatever you want to call it, whatever they want to call it, before you sign off on the dotted line and take what they're offering. And even if you've taken what they offer, you want to still reconsider, talk to competent legal counsel, and get the advice that you can with respect to whether or not you're getting underpaid, whether or not you have any legal avenues to effectively negotiate stuff. We're not talking about scenarios where you're leaving $10, $100, $500 on the table. The fact of the matter is that all too often employees, including those employees in the hotel industry, especially where you're long serving, leave thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars on the table and do not properly address those matters. And now with that whole avenue being very difficult to re-enter upon, and this having possibly been a very challenging opportunity for yourself, you really need to give due consideration to this. You need to get proper input from knowledgeable legal advisors as to where you stand and what you might well do. Ultimately, the decision will be yours to be made. Yes, it's your decision ultimately as to what you actually end up doing and whether you pursue legal action, you pursue negotiations, further, you demand more. That is ultimately up to yourself. But what you should have before you pursue that is that you should have all the information, all the knowledge, so you can make the right decisions. You worked hard enough. You should not simply jump and take whatever they offer you. It might be adequate. It might not be adequate. You might be like I say, you might be leaving a few $1,000s on the table. Then you leave a few $1,000s on the table. But you might be leaving 10, 20, 30, 50, maybe even more, $1,000, $50,000, $20,000 on the table unnecessarily. And part of the issue here, and this is another issue that you got to recognize, is that oftentimes employers do not fully understand the full impact of what they're doing. They might be doing stuff mistakenly. They might be overlooking stuff. They too also rely too heavily upon the internet and informal information. And even when they deal with other lawyers on the employer side, those lawyers, they are not trying to prescribe the most payment. They're trying to identify what the legally permissible payment is and giving that as motivation for how the hotel executives are to determine their payouts. And those lawyers have at times been incorrect, or they have not addressed certain aspects. It is a reality that we know of, that they overlook stuff. Or here's another issue that they do. Sometimes they apply different standards. These companies have become so massive, so international, that they approach it in one manner. And they say across the board, in Canada, the United States, and overseas, this is how we determine our employee severance packages or termination packages. And that is not how things go. No, no, no. The way things are approached is that they are approached on a jurisdiction by jurisdiction basis. And if you're not following the jurisdictional rules, they have to be made aware of them, because simply not following jurisdictional rules is an issue. Because some jurisdictions, when I'm talking about provinces and states, allow you to get away with underpaying their employees when they are fired, dismissed, or terminated. Whereas other jurisdictions have very high and stringent standards that need to be adhered to. It's the law, and you can't avoid it. And even being able to go to them and tell them that this is the law and it's simply what's required, can get you a lot further. But you need to get that advice. You need to talk to the knowledgeable lawyers to determine what you should be doing and what you might well be entitled to. Because just taking this legal aspect of jurisdictions, if the law in your province says something, and they're using a law from some U.S. state or some other place or something they got off the internet or some misinterpretation, they can't be doing that. They shouldn't be doing that. And that could well be costing you $20,000, $40,000, $50,000, or even more in the way of pay. And as we allude to, the challenges in the hotel industry are such that it would be nice to get back your old job. But the realities, you know the realities better than anybody, are such that those jobs might not be coming back anytime soon. And when they do come back, they might well not be coming back in a manner that is going to pay you properly. And can you really hold off for another 2-3 years with having been underpaid on your severance? It does not make sense. It's entirely not in line with what should have been done and what you should be doing. So what we are suggesting is that you get legal advice, preferably before you sign off on any severance package that they put before you, any release that they put before you. But as an additional word of advice, even if you have signed off, even if you've taken the money that they offered, that should not restrain you from talking to a lawyer and getting clarification. You might not want to know what you left on the table, but the fact of the matter is, you might not have left it on the table permanently. There are potential ways to address those situations and actually get the money you deserve. A bit more difficult, I must say, but they do exist, and you should not give up on it. Yes, you'll have to make a determination afterwards, but first hear out from the lawyer. Hear out what your options are, and then determine whether or not you're going to press your former employer as to what you should have been legally entitled to. That's how you should approach this stuff. That's my recommendation to you. And should you want to be looking for that kind of perspective as to what happens with respect to your termination and how to deal with termination and severance packages, please feel free to contact myself. I got some there. We can tell you what our assessment process is, how we proceed with this, and hopefully we can be of assistance to yourself. Ultimately, the decision is yours, but at the same time, why not make a fully informed decision, especially where you've put in so many hard-working years, 5, 10, 15, 20 or more years, working for one particular hotel company. And now you're getting let go, and it's unlikely you're going to find a comparable job of that quality. And to be leaving so much money on the table, potentially, you really need to stay informed. You're entitled to that, and you should know and you should act accordingly. So we wish you all the best and finding out the right way to take care of yourself and your family's interests. Thank you.